Now we will look into the second part of the satsang, Dakshinamurti Sahasram. We had seen what the image, the picture of Lord Dakshinamurti. You can see it through Google. You can get that image in your Google search, and you can see that he depicts. He is looking at the direction of south. The direction of south represents. What does it represent? It represents the egocentric feelings that are aroused by being associating with the body. The mind assuming itself as that location, as that entity, as that body, as if the body is seeing, the body is talking, as if all the capacities are inherent to the body. The body is animating, and body is naturally having its own intelligence. Like that, one is misled, one mistakes. This is what is happening. This kind of mistaking or getting misled is represented in the form of, because anything, the moment one is distracted, actually he is leading towards death, he is going towards death. And the direction is referred through one's physical appearance. It comes in reference to the physical form, that which are above the neck or the north direction, that which is below the neck is the south direction. That is more of association with the bodily feelings, with the ego. The ego is created by merely the mind, and the mind assuming itself as that body. The ego comes into play. This is what is death. And constantly by suppressing the ego, that is symbolically represented as the demon. He is called Moyalakan. He is an asura. That egocentric entity in anyone, for anything. Ego is a ego, sir. Whether one is doing good, destructive, there are no destructive egos and constructive egos. Ego is ego, which alienates one. The moment one is egoistic, he is lost. He has lost the track. So he is constantly stamping it, and through the four hands he conveys what really is, what actually is, what the truth is. He cautions, he alerts the Lord Dakshinamurti. Murti means form, Dakshina means south side. He is looking in the direction of south side. That is, one losing oneself in mind and senses and bodily feelings. This is what he checks by stamping that asura and focusing within himself eyes closed, eyes half opened, and the gaze is at the tip of his nose. He is constantly with awareness. We symbolize that on left hand he is holding a flame, on another left hand he holds the Vedas, on the right hand one hand holds the Damaru, a small drum-like instrument, cautioning everyone that do not lose time, do not lose yourself in mind or the bodily oriented actions, feelings. Be there, do your activities, but centered in this attention, perform those activities too, because they are also his expression only. That is what the sloka is going to say. Maya is also his creation, ignorance also his creation. Ignorance is normally associated with the individual level. With the individual level, it is called as ignorance. That is, in Sanskritam they say Vyashti. Through Vyashti means it is like a single tree. If it's a grove, it's thousands of trees. Samashti is a grove. Vyashti is a single tree. So an individual is engrossed in ignorance. The Samashti is pervaded by Maya. What is Maya? You see a big cosmos in front of you, as if you are waking up in this cosmos, you are living in this cosmos. This deludes everyone. The appearances, the manifestations in the waking state deludes everyone. Is it not? It deludes. It confuses. One is finding it very difficult to chide away that, to ignore that fact. So what is it? I am seeing the seasons, every day the sun is arising and setting. The constant movement of the physical time. In physical activities, there is a clear-cut physiological time, chronological time. The body is a bio-clock-like mechanism. Because one is the body, one has taken himself as the body, that root ignorance somehow has to get cut off. Somehow, it's only by the grace. And with one's own sincerity. If one yearns for this, if one cries for this, let all the faults drop in me. Let all these that are called as I, me, by me, with me, of me, for me, mine, in me, on me, let all these things drop off. They are not the facts. They torture me. I am confused terribly. The first sight of one getting into the understanding track, the track of understanding is that he starts doubting that am I the body? Am I the body that is actually I am identifying with? Am I this body? Or am I the senses which look at my body as well as the complete manifested creation also? Because both deludes. This delusion on a very large scale, grand scale is called Maya. Actually, they do not delude. They are not deluding anyone. Here, I have gathered dust in me over millennia with strong likes and dislikes. The intellect has become dross. It has become useless. It has become useless. It is covered. Over millennia, in various forms. This is a timeless universe, sir. These are all the basic facts. This is a timeless cosmos. Abundance is its way. It doesn't delude anyone. I have deluded myself. And one cannot ask this question, why am I deluded? What was the cause of delusion? It is inherent, sir. Instead of asking, what is the cause of delusion, one can ask, what is this about? Let me take charge right now, not thinking why one at all should be deluded. Because there cannot be any answer. You have not asked for this a few moments before also. That is the problem. A non-investigative nature in one is the cause of bondage. If one can give an answer to this, what is the cause of my bondage? Why am I deluded? Why all this creation has a big galaxies, universes, sun, moon and days, seasons, full moon day. All these happenings through in and around me as something. Gradations of intelligence getting expressed in various forms. Right from one cell amoeba to the animal kingdom, and then a fully evolved intellect in the form of a human being. If one asks this question, why am I shrouded in this mystery of Maya? Why I am caught up in this Maya? For this, the only answer is, you have never inquired. You have never investigated. Non-investigation is the root cause of ignorance or Maya or bondage. In the grand scale, it is called Maya. In the individual level, it is called ignorance. You have not ventured. You have not doubted. You have taken it for granted. You have never questioned when your eyes see a program, when you see a sight, you have never asked, from where does this intelligence come? Who is the seer in me? Be it any sensory activity. One has not inquired, one has not investigated. This non-investigative nature, this non-doubting nature about one's own activities and a separate center is the cause of bondage. Nothing else. This is the right answer, direct answer. How will it exist? The moment one questions this, one doubts this, one asks this question, one probes one's own self. What is there left with in one? The senses, the past registrations, the thoughts. One is expressing, one is leading the life through thoughts. Thinking is living. One has associated himself with only thinking. Thinking brings in all sorts of fears, because it is a fountainhead. Because thinking is the means by which one associates himself, identifies himself with the body, and that is what is, he calls it as life. The very living is nothing but it is it falls only within the waking state. It occupies only waking state domain. Birth and death are simply concepts or fears of waking state. Amid so many fears, security, insecurity, attaining, non-attaining, being ambitious, being incapable, being successful, anything and everything of the waking state, the whole paraphernalia, the whole group of confusions. Why does it arise? Because you have not investigated. Investigation leads to discriminate between which is real and which is unreal. This whole waking state that is being lived by this entity, this centralized location, fundamentally, does it have any authenticity? This is the root question. If one sees a sight, a scenery, or something, can one ask this question, who is the seer? It's not immediately, I am the seer, my eyes are seeing. It is my eyes and I am the seer. If you are the seer, you should not have, even in the deep sleep, you should have seen, you should have cognized, you should be knowing that you are sleeping. That center should continue to exist, even in deep sleep. Does it happen that way? See, we are looking into the facts, sir. This is what is real investigation. The whole of spirituality is only investigating about this. The whole of India, all the scriptures, all the depictions of the lords, of the godly states and everything, they have brought in here only to help an individual, sir. That is why so much of adoration also, so much of adorning the temples also. The temple is adorned like anything, no. Lot of festivals, lot of functions, because somehow they constantly going on beating and proclaiming that there is something, not all these things. Right from the entrance of the temple, where the Gopuram is there, they call it as temple tower, no? That is also depicted with a lot of dolls, a lot of images. The ways of daily existence are all given in the form of lot of sculptures. Ordinary living, moment to moment living. The emphasis is on moment to moment living, sir. In moment to moment, not escaping anywhere, because one who escapes, the very escapee is the mind. Where can I hide my mind, sir? Where can I submerge my mind? See, in the animal kingdom, if you see the animals, when some animal is provoked, say, suppose a snake is being chased, people have noticed a snake. What it does, it searches for a crevice to hide itself. And what it thinks, just the crevice will be only sufficient enough for the head to get in. By hiding its head, the rest of the whole of the body, say for about 5 feet, will be available for the people to kill it. But it doesn't know But just by hiding the face, a small portion, a head, the head alone is hidden in the crevice, in the burrow. Like that, we are left with only the waking state, and if we take this waking state so seriously, when a person thinks, how does the thinking come into play? He thinks that he is that expectation, he is that hurt. He was the person who was disrespected. Some experience he underwent. He carries that. He lives in that. The moment the name or the central figure or the word name associated with that experience, if that comes into his mind, that's all. His whole mood is upset. That hurt is being carried on. This is what is the real spirituality. How can one escape from day-to-day living, and all the more can go to an ashram or monastery with an isolated group as if it is an establishment. You are the ashram, you are the center where the practice needs to be undertaken. You are the center. Your inner climate should be always with the higher planes of existence, higher planes of consciousness. What is that higher planes? It starts only with bare attention. That is the flame Lord Dakshinamurti holds. The flame, the light, the flame of attention. It does miracles, sir. It does miracles. I have been telling quite often about dharana practices. What does it do? It makes one to be openly aware without any center as such, himself or herself, becoming something. Let the activity, whatever that ought to happen, let them happen. Let it happen. But the result, as well as even in the activity, let not one identify. Let one get on doing it, even forgetting it totally. This is what, through this sutra, through this stotra, this is given here. We will go into the sloka. Dakshinamurti Stotram, first Stotram. I told you, Stotram is praising. Stuti Tal in Tamil they say, Stuti in Sanskrit. By constantly praising, why adoration of the Lord? The 3 periods in a temple are celebrated like anything in all the temples all over India. Why do they do it? A constant living, constant association only with the higher things. Only with the higher things. And that too with the verses that are written, that are all by-hearted also. People have taken it. They have taken it to their heart. With that, just think of one's living. The very livelihood is being lived in that way. One will never come back to the self-centric activities. He carries on whatever that are to be done, and always the coming back. That is what is being conveyed here through the Lord's depiction itself. Is an aspect of Lord Shiva. Auspiciousness, holiness, fullness, completeness, tranquility. The tranquility of the deep sleep. The abundance of the deep sleep. So what this stotram says, Vishvam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijandarkatam pashyanna atmani mayaya bahihi udbhutam yada nidraya yas sakshat kurute prabodha samaye swatmanam eva advayam tasmai Sri Gurumurtaye namayidam Sri Dakshinamurtaye. The key word in whole of this sloka, stotram, is Swatmanam eva advayam. That is the key word, sir. See, this is given by Adi Shankaracharya, who lived somewhere around 1400 or 1500 years back. 15 or 16 centuries back, he lived. He praised Lord Dakshinamurti through these hymns, through these stotrams. These stotrams, once heard, and if they are even taken by heart by one and lifts one, they can live with this. They can pass on their whole life with this. All the waking states they can live with these slokas. That is the kind of slokas, because they are revealing the truth moment to moment, there and then. The moment one recognizes, remembers. It is not an escapism. You are not escaping the functional day-to-day life at all. Where to escape? What is that location to which one can simply take himself to? It's mind, sir. Everywhere it's mind. Wherever you go, your mind is going to follow you like a shadow. Your mind is actually expressing itself as your body and this world. To empty that, why should one run away? What is the body has done? What the family has done, be it husband or wife or children or parents or other relations, or what the world has done. Your mind is the world, your mind is the relationships, your mind is the affections, your mind is the hurt, your mind is the expectation. Changing of place or leaning on some other, a group, an external establishment, be it an ashram, how does it going to help one? What does the image Lord Dakshinamurti conveys? What does it convey? What does it convey? He is sitting under the banyan tree. Banyan tree is It grows for years, maybe for centuries also. Some of the banyan trees are 300, 400 years old. Again it's fixed. Again it falls into the touches the ground, and they start supporting it. And what is it actually associated with banyan tree? It is actually for resting. That is what they used to say, a big banyan tree. It is so widespread, the shadow of the banyan tree is so soothing. An army of about 1,000 people with their elephants and horses, people in those days, they used to rest under the banyan tree. So because it is symbolized, it is associated with rest, peace, or relaxation. That is why this stotram, this depiction, is sitting under the banyan tree, conveying by his very form, and he is sitting alone, drawn inwards. For the world only, as a figure, as a form, as a being, as an image, is symbolified, whereas for him is that he is fully drawn, collected. So moment to moment, a sadhakam or the practice is going on through that depiction. He is completely stamping that ego and holding all the four kinds of expressions through his four hands, eyes half closed. He is sitting alone. When whole of this spirituality is concerned only to an individual, concerned only with an individual, where is the group coming in here? Where is the question of taking this as a picnic or a vacation to some ashram? It is a private affair. It's a private practice. It is an one-to-one practice, because truth is the very subjectivity in all the places at all times. So the practice should be only within one, not seeking an establishment outside, some other external setup which will help one. Where is the question of, even to practice this, how can one plan a setup? So let me do this, let me undertake this. By this month end, I will be having leave, holiday period for about a week's time. I will go there and then I will start. Are you not, even at this moment of planning, are you not this truth? The moment this type of sankalpa or a determination or a planning happens in you, the moment something as a planned approach towards some practice or proceeding to some other place, a planning happens in one, what does it say, sir? First, it doesn't exist here and now. Is it not the wrong approach? And it exists only at that place. It only exists in Mount Kailash. It exists only in some other temple or some other corner. What does this depiction of Lord Dakshinamurti conveys? What does it convey? It conveys that it is one-to-one. It is all oneness, not aloneness. All oneness, because one is everything. The subjectivity, in subjectivity, there are no phenomena. There are no phenomena. Only noumena is. Only noumena is. Only one is. That is intangible, that is beyond senses, that is beyond mind, that is beyond comprehension, that is beyond understanding, but still it is. One sun for this whole of the 11 planets with its satellites. Only one sun. Its light alone spreads to all the 11 planets, however far they may be placed. Only one sun. In the same way, only one truth. Not only for this solar family, there's only one truth. Sir, the magnitude of this Vivekam and Vicharam or the investigation, whatever that we undertake, one should understand the magnitude, the dimension. See, one is totally understanding about who he is. One actually understands who is born, what is death, and what are all these concepts, what is this waking state. So the dimension itself is a very serious affair. It's an one-to-one affair. See, the importance that is given by this depiction of Lord Dakshinamurti, sitting alone under the banyan tree, eyes closed, he is totally immersed within himself. He is immersed. There is no trace of anything at all. Constantly stamping that effortful entity called ego. To communicate to this world, the sage who saw this truth, like Adi Shankaracharya, who are all actually transmitting, sir. This through this sloka, it is just like a live relay. That is why beyond time, after 1500 years or 1600 years, it is relevant even to this moment, and it is going to be here everlastingly. Because truth only is. The moment I say everlastingly, I am measuring it in time. That is not necessary at all, because truth alone is. Truth cannot be contained. If all the books and the scriptures of the world are completely destroyed, even then, in a fresh body, in a human body with a mind, the truth will emerge. It will again bring back, because it is not away in the books. You are the truth, I am the truth, everything is the truth, mountain is the truth, sun is the truth, the oceans are the truth. Everything, an atom. It is so easily, immediately, directly available, and all the more through Adi Shankaracharya's words. It's made light. Apply it, see it, practice it, live it. Transcend. That's all. Transcend. That's what one has to do. As it is being investigated into, one is transformed, one realizes, one understands, one transcends, one knows it for sure. Yes, I am not this body. That is how the explanations given through this stotram. We will go to this. Here the key word, Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantarkadam Pashyanna Atmani Mayaya Bhihi Udbhutam Yada Nidraya Yas Sashat Kurude Prabodha Samaye Swatmanameva Advayam Tasmai Sri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Sri Dakshinamurtaye. It is adoring the Lord Dakshinamurti. He expresses this. We have already gone into the description of the depiction of the Lord's appearance. Here the key word is Swatmanam eva advayam. You are an embodiment of non-duality. What is duality, sir? What is duality? A thought arising in one is the arising of the duality also. D-U-A-L. There is another word, D-U-E-L. That is wordy dual. Argument. Not that. Non-dual. Secondless one. A secondless and another less. A separate less, one subjectivity. That is what is Advayam. Swatmanam. Swatmanam means Swa means one's own. In Tamil, the Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi used to say Tan. Beautifully. For Atman. Because it is an abode. It is an abode on its own. Doesn't mean there are other abodes. These are all not abodes at all. These are all reflections. Why one is able to see through his eyes? Because the intelligence is beneath everything here. The eyes draw intelligence, the current, the electricity of the intelligence, that current is being drawn by eyes. But do the eyes see through one? The eyes do not enjoy the sights. Through eyes, the mind wants to see. The mind sees. Using the eyes, the mind sees. Mind is the second. The very orientation happens by a thought that is aroused in one, identifies itself as that location, having a separate intelligence of its own. It thinks, I want this, I want to see that. I want to see that movie. I want to go to that party. I want to enjoy. I want to be happy. By associating with something as if that object gives happiness or that relationship gives happiness, that object gives happiness, that identification of this mind, this location as the body, fundamentally thinks that because of that I am happy, and that has got registered, that experience has got registered in him, and that influences the moment a word or something of that association comes into memory. Immediately one jumps into action. The very arising of a thought is dual, sir. It is alienating. It is alienating the source. This is root ignorance. This is what is called the root ignorance. Moola avidya in Tamil they say. Moola avidya in Sanskrit. Root ignorance. One takes oneself to be this location. Not only body, it is psychological aspects also. See, when I have acquired a BL or a law degree, I am a lawyer. What is that kind of identification? That kind of identification is nothing but the ownership of legal knowledge. The knowledge of law has become myself. That's why different roles. All the experiences creates roles in one. They create roles. Roles, all the roles confuse. All the roles only will confuse. Too many at a given moment cramps one. That is why always the intellect, it never stops working. It never stops. For anything and everything, there is only about to do or not to do, to go or not to go, to see or not to see, to become or not to become, to avoid or to accept. Be it anything and everything, the center never ceases to exist. It plays a vital role. By and by, one is fully driven by influences. Here, when your original state that exists in your deep sleep without a second, not even one cognizes that he is a man or a woman, a child or an old man, one who is born or one who is not at all born, fundamentally, because nothing whatsoever is left over there. That is a secondless, but that is not realized, grasped. This grasping will take place beyond thinking process. There are states of doing this, but fundamentally one should check one's own the fury of thoughts, the speed of thoughts, the thinking. For that, where can one run away? Never miss the opportunity of the waking state, the whole waking state activities. In each and every moment of your waking state living, do not waste even a moment of your waking state living. Do your activity without a center. Always turn the gaze within yourself. A centerless, bare openness. But this should be done seriously. That is why when it is generally defined colloquially, what is the way God works throughout this cosmos? When they explain, they say, He is seriously playful. He is playfully serious. God is playfully serious. Because just the very presence intangibly, the presence intangibly, invisibly hidden, not open, has all the elements and all the complete creation and the manifestation. Playfully they exist. Playfully sleep envelops one. Playfully ignorance envelops one. Playfully one objectifies himself. in this creation, goes on sparing himself, draining himself in whatever that are created, whatever that are that has come into manifestation. And throws himself constantly, even the ignorance or the avidya or the maya, whatever it may be. It is his capacity, the very existence of the pure intelligence of the Chit, in its presence, in its sannidhi, that is what they say in Sanskrit. It's sannidhi visesha, that is what they say. Sannidhi visesham. By its mere presence, very casually, playfully, but there is a serious message and serious lessons are being spread through that expression by God to each and every atom that has come into play. Whether are you the center or am I the center? That is the question at any moment one is faced with. What is it that one is faced with? Whether am I this is the center, is this the center, or he is the center? Is he the center? Or is it the center? Here one has to clearly draw a line, sir. This is what is actually jnana. Unless one clearly discriminates that which is unreal, that is this waking state, which is pseudo entity, with a pseudo entity. Which is built upon millennia of registrations, undergoing, living in various forms throughout millennia. This confusion has taken place. Now, by its grace, it alone graces one. By its grace, we understand it is really a serious matter. Let me look seriously, sincerely, honestly, integratedly, not leaning on anything externally. Can you not understand all these things, sir? Are these not facts? One undergoes, one experiences. Any moment of the waking state, in one is nothing but dual in nature. His thought, I am thinking about this, I should get that. So a process of continuous doing and becoming, modifying, correcting, seeking, rejecting, something towards a separate self-centric advancement or progress or betterment, whatever you call it. Right from childhood, right from the moment we were born, even in the womb, were we not seeking comfort, seeking as a conception, as a conceived entity? Involuntarily, the moment The pure intelligence is entrapped in one form, in one consciousness, in one particular location as the body. It is an inbuilt nature of dwelling, living as a dual entity, caught in duality. That form, and there are experiences. The moment an experience itself shows, an experiencing shows, what does it show? It shows I am experiencing this from that activity. As if in mind this is one location, in time through that experience I am getting satisfied, I am attaining, I am becoming happy. Upon this fundamental dual nature, all the differences throng one. This is a fundamental duality. I, you, he, she, it, they. With I, we, my family, my nation, my village, my childhood, my studies, my wealth, my well-being, my health, what not. The whole waking state is nothing but duality. This is what he says. Swatmanam eva advayam, that is the nature. Your nature is, you are beyond this duality. You are not this at all. You are something beyond. It doesn't mean this has covered that. That's all. The problem is our original nature is this. It is not our original nature is that onlyness alone. Only subjectivity alone is. Quite often I have been telling, there exists in the cosmos throughout no identifications as those names or forms. The sun does not know it is sun. It is from a human being's angle only. A consciously evolved, the consciousness which has evolved as a human being and which has taken a human form, which says that is sun. Now this is midsummer. Or now this is winter. Whatever that, according to the environment, the conditioning is. All the names come out of, for a center. The center creates those names and it gets locked up, it gets caught. It is caught in those names, and those names confuse us terribly. They are taking it for, he is taking it for real. He is taking the world for real. Sir, I am sowing a seed, a bija. That is what is going to come in this sloka also. I am sowing a seed. The moment I take that seed and I am planting it under the soil, do I not have the feeling that, yeah, I am sowing it? As days go by, I go on seeing it, the growth of it, the plant sprouts, the seedling sprouts. I'm going on, this has come up. As if I am the doer, I have been watering it. I have sown it, I have watered it, and it is growing, and I am this, and it is growing. But the plant or the seed which I had sown It is also affecting itself with me, but it does it in an impersonal way. There is no center. All the five elements, complete cosmos is affecting one also. He is ignorant about it, but they are not ignorant. They are that. You only have named it as sun, the plant, and all this. They are existing in an impersonal subjectivity, onlyness. That is what he says. These are all your creation, the creation of the ego. This is the creation of the ego. We'll slowly go into the sloka. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam. Pashyanna atmani mayaya bhagihi udbhutam yada nidraya. See how in deep sleep, deep sleep sets the platform for dream to arise. For one to dream, basically you should be asleep. Suddenly he is enveloped, he is made to dream. He is enveloped in dream. He never realizes, moments ago I was sleeping, I was fast asleep. Suddenly now I am in a forest or I am in a picnic spot. I am taking a bath with my friends in the waterfall. It's so enthralling experience. So nice for this summer. How beautiful it is. All are shouting and making noises. It's a wonderful scene. Totally the environment and everything is created. The whole world is created without the center become necessary for it to arise those environment. The whole of the physical world is not needed, including the moment the word, physical word is uttered, that includes the physical body of you also. Nothing is wanted there. The dream comes. The dream happens. Amidst the dream, the dreamer also undergoing experiences at that period in time. He undergoes that dream. He lives that dream. He experiences the dream. He is the experiencer until the moment it is broken by the waking state. The dream goes on. It continues. If it is a nice dream, the dreamer never wants to wake up. Only a painful dream, a sad dream, an untoward dream. What happens? At the moment of about to be killed, if suddenly one rolls down from the cart and woken up, what happens? Oh, I believed. Fortunately, it was only a dream. I was chased by a tiger. I was about to be killed. Fortunately, it was only a dream. Oh, it's a dream. No more than any importance is given to that happening. But here he says, just like the dream, for that, this physical world or a physical body, nothing is required. Whether the dream is happening inside the body or outside, because the moment I say the dream is confined within this body, how come a big waterfall with the surrounding forest and the things will appear there? And that experience, how can it be contained in a small 6 foot contours? periphery. So, totally the physical universe is discarded with the individual. So something totally independently arises in one as dream. What is that place, sir? That is what he says. It is the Advaita place, the place of Advayam. It is that one subjectivity out of which how a dream happens to one during deep sleep, in the same way, this whole waking state with the universes and galaxies and whatnot, time, space, and various things and beings moving around. What are all these? This is also nothing but it is actually not out there. It is reflecting your mind is arisen with those environment and the registrations. It is not something called as a world exists outside of you. It is your mind. Your mind is the world. The registrations have arisen as the world you see, you perceive. Our enjoyments or bliss or pains or sufferings, whatever it may be, sir. How does one undergo? How does one experience this? It is the ultimate, the experience, the final lap of the experience. Does it not? The inwardly one undergoes that. I have been trying something very hard to attain here, in this world, mundane world. I got it. Say, I was desiring to buy a car, a particular car, which has become my desire. It has taken over me. I have become the desire. My whole consciousness has become the desire. And it was going on trying towards that end. It was saving money and everything. Finally, a day has come. Paid the money and I am taking delivery of the car. Now that the first drive the car. What is it, sir? What happens in one? The whole of the 2 years or 3 years or 3 months agony of saving money, for that sacrificing so many other pleasures, compromising so many things, compromising the other priorities, they are pushed to the secondary states, and only the dominating entity was of 3 months thinking of buying same car, a particular car should be bought. I should have it. I should own it. And finally, you are on the driving seat, you are driving it. What has happened in you? What is that actually? Where does it happen? Does it not happen in oneself only? That too in the mind, in the closest spot, the nearest spot in one? All the agony, the waiting, the passionate approach, the passionate longing for it, to have that, and the ordeals one undergo. Finally, what has happened now? The whole arena of that area in mind that was putting forth all the efforts, suddenly they are put to rest. They are nowhere to be found. They are nowhere to be found. Be it a car or a human relationship. Nowhere to be found. Complete silence, as if, was I the one who actually struggled for this, to possess this? Was I the one who went through all the ordeals? That entities, those entities which underwent those sufferings, they don't exist. They go away, they disappear, nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, quiet, everything quiet. This is what is our happiness. Through senses, through minds craving and clinging. This desiring or the affection or the attachment, does it arise within one, or has it happened in the world, in the car? Does the car desire you? Does it desire you? Has it desired you? Or have you desired the car? Who desired what? This is the first right placement, sir. This is how the vichara, the investigation has to take place in one. Whether the world relates with me or am I relating with the world? Be it sun or anything, which is dependent on what? Does the world dependent on me or am I dependent on the world? If you closely look at the fact, the whole world is a projection of you. Why it got projected? Because you took the world for real, including with your body, and you've taken them as yourself. That is why they continue to exist as your mind, and they come into play through your waking state. Why are you here in an embodied human form? Because they have to get extinguished through you. Those registrations as you becoming the world, as your mind becoming the world. Why at all the mind has come in you? Because of you have taken the world as real without realizing what is the medium involved in taking, without even doubting about it. As you saw it, it has become your part of you. It has become a part of you. This is what he says. Here he says, Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantarkatam. It is the innate nature of the mind. It only creates the world. It comes with the world. It is the world. Actually, though my eyes may be extroverted, I may be looking at something, the eyes may be open, actually, I am not seeing something really out there. I am actually, what is in only is reflecting there. This is what he says. See, this is the very crucial point one should clearly understand, sir. The whole cosmos is one's own affection, how one affects it, how one has taken it. That is what is actually expressed as cosmos. Otherwise, there is nothing as cosmos out of you, out of one. Not even his body. That is what is the fact that is expressed in our deep sleep. Deep sleep expresses that. Vishwam Darpana. Darpana means mirror. Just like the mirror, how the mirror reflects the objects placed in front of it. The objects are something externally, originally existing outside. The mirror has the capacity to reflect it. But here, what happened in one, this mind in time, by and by, associating with different forms, Different mind has a limitless capacity. If it sees one, that is being absorbed. If it listens, if it hears one, that sound is getting absorbed. Anything and everything is going as an impression in it. A constant registrations are going on. Even a past period is also registered because it doesn't know it's a past period. Because if one does not know fundamentally who he is, the mind comes into play. That is why here, without investigation, one cannot even for a moment lead his life, live his waking state, livelihood. Whatever the kind of livelihood one may be doing. Moment to moment, the investigation never ceases in one. That is what is the applicability Dakshinamurti Stotram. Through the Lord's depiction also, it conveys to the whole world. It is done independently, not in groups. It is a one-to-one affair, private affair, not leaning on some establishment, not depending on some groups. And what does it say? It says, end, stop, block. They are not real. Because your mind is actually naming it as sun and distancing it from you, projecting it as something away from you, whereas you who are actually projecting it. It's your own projection. Your mind is actually projecting it. So with the mind, the whole world unwinds itself. And one falls asleep, one goes to sleep. What happens in sleep? The whole mind, the thought should disappear. Every thought that projects itself as the world dissolves. The dissolution of a thought is nothing but the dissolution of the individual mind. Only the dissolution of the individual mind is the basic essential way by which sleep envelops one. One falls asleep, and how the sleep envelops one? There are no thoughts left over, no feelings, no separate existence at all. Then he is enveloped by that fully relaxed oneliness, one subjectivity. Does the world exist outside? The thoughts arise, the thoughts are the world, thoughts are himself, a thought is oneself. First he is the duality, his body actually brings in the duality, creates the duality. His thought is the duality about himself as the body, and it perpetuates. See clearly this whole cosmos is just like your individual ego's projection is this whole world, including your body. First, authentically question this, doubt this, look at this. By the ways and means, Lord Dakshinamurti's form depicts the truth. Live with that throughout your waking state. This is what this stotram says. It is just like a reflection in the mirror. Your individual consciousness as a separate entity reflects everything, and it is caught in everything. It is confused in everything. It takes these things as real, whereas these are not real. You are the only subjectivity without any separate name or form or any trace of any individuality is there. The whole cosmos, whether let it exist or not in your deep sleep, but it depends on that consciousness for its existence. The one consciousness alone exists here. not your separate individuality at all. That revelation has dawned in me by the Lord's grace alone. That is what the last two lines says. Yaha sakshat kurute prabodha samaye. At the moment of this revelation, at the point of this revelation in me, it was only its blessing. Who else can reveal it? The silence of the Lord, the posture also conveys only, it only continuously speaks through silence. The Lord's posture, the depiction of Lord's image only speaks in silence. That silence is the Atma Guru in every one of us. That is the only Guru, that Guru alone, the inner Atma Guru alone can be the only Guru, and he alone can grace us. It alone can grace us with this revelation. He has graced me. That is what he gives his propitiations. He praises that Lord in all the words. Tasmai Sri Gurumurti Namaidam Sri Dakshinamurti Me. I pray to that one source, one supreme subjectivity, the one intelligence, that is my Atma Guru itself. I am praying to him that embodies me as my own non-dual Swatmanam, that is non-dual intelligence. That is what he says here through this stotra. We will see the next stotra in our next satsang.